Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I want to talk about something that greatly affects the human family. And that particular thing is in the title of this video. The hypocrisy in today's hypergamy. And the things they don't want you to know about it. Or at least they don't want you to talk about it. And though this may sound like I'm trying to warn and protect men, this is also addressed at decent women that are upset as well at this growing trend of the family unit becoming extinct. So even if you're a woman, please listen to what is being discussed here today. And as a bonus, I will give a solution at the end of this video. Or at least a possible solution that can turn the ship back in the correct direction. And it's something I can see as a great possibility and very doable. And it's something that I will probably mention a lot at the end of my videos that deal with this type of subject matter. Other videos not so much. But these types, I will probably at some point talk about this possible solution, in hopes it reaches the right ears. And I will talk more about that when we get to that part of the video. Now back on the main topic at hand. The hypocrisy in today's hypergamy. What do I mean when I say that? Well, we are told, correctly I might add, the nature of a woman when it's in relation to hypergamy is to find the best suited man that can give her the best and most secure life. In ancient times, it was the man that was able to hunt, and that could build a house, and could protect her from those that might want to harm her. But in the modern world it became the man that's able to make money and buy a house, and to afford to raise her children. Now keeping that in mind, I recently made a video. Can hypergamy be altered? And the answer being yes. This plays heavily into what we are talking about today. And that somehow the modern version of ancient hypergamy was altered. You see, hypergamy 60 to 70 years ago was more normal and was much like ancient hypergamy. And pop culture really did a good job at enforcing this as a social norm. Now, was there cheating on both sides, both men and women back then? Yes. There was. Was there narcissism and narcissistic abuse? With evil, and I do mean evil narcissist men and women back then? Absolutely there was, and even in ancient times. The Bible warns us about such beings. But like I mentioned in the video, can hypergamy be altered? Those that run things needed a together society, so the Western world could be built up. Or so it seems. Really it was to have those on the bottom be happy enough to make certain companies and those that own them mega rich. And the only way to do that is to not have chaos, giving the people the feeling they can have the Western world dream. And many of them had it. And part of that was adhering to the social norms pushed by what everyone back then watched on the television and movies. You see, women back then were taught to not ditch a man when he's down, to work through your problems, because they knew no one would want a divorced woman, especially if she had children. So though divorces did happen, and babies born out of wedlock happened, it was a very rare thing to see. Now this is not to say these marriages were happy. I'm sure there was a lot of narcissistic abuse going on, just like it's happening now. But those people that had a good nature about themselves had a better chance at finding one another, and not having so many outside forces to tempt them into screwing up their relationships. And one of those evil is what many call monkey branching, or a woman practicing hypergamy when there's nothing wrong with the man she's with. And this is where I differ from many that say it's normal. Blah blah blah. And to that I say, yes, hypergamy exists. But as mentioned before, it's been altered. And women that have good jobs, or a decent life, don't practice hypergamy for the old reasons anymore. And I don't think it's the super drive they have to keep going from branch to reach the top. I really don't. But the real reason why I believe many, not all, please understand, I don't think all, but many women practice hypergamy is because they want to be on the winning end when the relationship fails. especially if it fails due to the fault of them doing something very bad that ends the relationship she has with a man. Please let that sink in. I don't think a woman that has a really good paying job, that pays her $100,000 a year, where she has her own home, a nice car, she goes on trips she pays for 3 times a year. I don't think she ignores good men, responsible men. Maybe a man that makes $70,000 a year. Yet she looks for the man making more than she does. I don't think she does this because she has the deep down desire to be secure because she already has all she needs. She's practicing hypergamy because she knows how the world works. She knows how the divorce system works. She knows how family court works. This is the average woman, mind you. They know how all these system works. And again, though most women know how all these systems work, not all take advantage of these systems. I must point that out. But they know if something goes wrong in this relationship, and they are making more money than the man, they might be the one that is ordered to pay child support. They might be the one ordered to pay alimony. They might be the one that has to move out of the home they bought with their hard work. And because they know how screwed up the system is. And they know there are a lot of temptations out there they might fall into. And if such a thing happens, and they cheat on their husband, the father of their children, they know if they married up, they will 9 times out of 10 come out the financial winner. When people say, you can't fault women for practicing hypergamy, it's their nature. Well, I don't think they've thought what they are saying through. Because today's hypergamy is completely altered into a screwed up mess. And I believe this was done on purpose to undermine the family unit. Because what exists today in no shape or form resembles what was happening many years ago. If a man married a woman 70 years ago, and he lost his job, as long as he was a good man and out there trying, he stood a good chance at keeping his wife with him. Simply because it was shameful to run out on your family for both the man or the woman. It was something that you didn't do unless you wanted to be seen as a terrible person. So people weathered the storms that came their way a lot better than they do now. And again, that's not to say screwed up families with a bunch of problems didn't exist back then. Because they did. But the reality is this. Back then you stood a better chance at having a good family, a together family, than you do now. And it's all because hypergamy has been altered. And the laws support those that want to do evil. And again, when I hear people say, well, you can't blame her. It's in her nature to look for security. I think to myself, that's way off base because she already has it. Then you have to look deeper and see why hypergamy is practiced by many. Not all, but many women in the Western world. And the sad truth is it's practiced so they don't have to take responsibility if they are the direct cause of a divorce or family breakup. And they don't have to be the financial loser if such a breakup takes place. There are many women that say I would never sign a prenup because that's offensive for a man to bring up such a thing. But many of these same women, when asked, if you were just willed $10 million, would you want a prenup then? And most will say, if he won't sign one, I'm out of the door. So she can protect hers but he can't protect his. Folks, it all comes down to accountability. And winning and losing. And many, not all, but many women out there don't want to be on the losing side of when a relationship breaks up. Nor do they want to be accountable for any wrongdoing. And hypergamy allows that. Because we live in a world. If you have a lot of money, you're a target. People purposely slip and fall all the time to get into the deep pockets of this company or that company, hoping they get paid. That's why you see many powerful people or rich actors date other rich actors. And I know they have their own evil weirdness going on. But think about it. If some rich actor started to date the woman behind the counter at McDonald's, his chances of getting taken to the cleaners is high. And the same for high-paid women. There have been a small amount of successful women in the public eye that married or had children with their backup male dancers. And these rich women get taken to the cleaners as well. So women in our society, at least a good many of them, know it's a game of winning and losing. And they know. They know sooner or later the relationship is going to end. Which is very much up the alley of the narcissist. And because they know it's going to end, they are preparing from the very day the relationship starts for the exit. And part of that is making sure for the woman the man has more money, property, and wealth. Because when the relationship ends, no matter if she was at fault or not, she knows. Chances are, the man will come out the loser and she will come out the winner. This has nothing to do with looking for the next best suitor that can provide more safety. Because if she can buy her own house and car and pay for her own trips, what more does she need? Well, what safety she needs is to make sure she's on the winning end when the relationship ends. There's too many temptations for her to turn down. And too much of a good time to be had. I recently watched a video of two men being interviewed in a sit-down style type interview, where they talked about how they were cheated on by their wives, and how messy their divorces were. And in all of these instances, the women expected the men to just pay simply because they are men. They were running the town cheating and drinking. And I might add, it all started off with the men thinking it was a great idea the women in the neighborhood get to be friends. And what started out as birthdays and cookouts turned into the women going off to nightclubs for ladies' night out. And when that happened, many of the good women said they can't be a part of this and bailed out of the scene. But the others kept on. And it resulted in cheating and chaotic behavior that wrecked these homes. But in these instances, these women believed though they were at fault, because their husbands made good livings, they the women would come out the winners even though they were the ones completely in the wrong. Now one of the men fought hard and got lucky to get custody of his children. But the other was not so lucky and is paying through the nose. And that brings me to the possible solution I've mentioned in previous videos. And something I will be mentioning a lot more to come because I believe it's important. You see, talking about things is good. But just like the narcissist in our lives, they feel like, if we the victim is just talking and talking and talking, but they are still doing what they are going to do, they are the ones that are winning. At some point something has to change for the better. And that usually comes from a positive action from you. And in the case when dealing with the narcissist, that means getting the heck away from them. And yes, you've seen men going their own way and such. And then there are men's rights groups. And then there are guys like myself that just speak truth. I don't belong to one or the other. But I see the points of both. That being said, one of the top of the food chain guys in the MGTOW movement said something that was very men's rights. And that is basically, if nothing is done about what is happening, sooner or later everyone will be enslaved. And that is so true. Both groups have their good points. But something needs to happen. Because the system doesn't want you to have a happy life. It doesn't want you to meet a woman and have children. And have you and the woman you are with stay together so you can raise those children right. It doesn't want that. So it does what it does. Which is throw as much evil into your life as possible, hoping the worst will happen to you and your family. But they put a nice package on it, which makes it all appear to be fashionable. So what is this thing that might fix things? And fix things very quickly, I might add. At least in my opinion. Well, we all know there aren't many men's shelters out there, where they can get a safe place to go to, and where they can get free legal assistance and counseling. And most of the time when someone tries to open such a place, just like when there's a men meet up to discuss these types of issues, they are quickly swarmed with protesters and all kinds of craziness. until the men give up and cancel whatever it is they are doing. And there's a reason for this tactic that is done to men trying to get groups started and shelters. Those that go out and protest do so for a very specific reason. They know if one shelter goes up successfully without a problem, then another will open. And another and another. Before you know it, they will be all over the United States, Europe, and Australia. And what that will do is provide different numbers to the abuse statistics, and it will push the problem with unfair divorce and family court laws to the forefront, to where they have to be addressed. Also, those that receive funding now for women's groups might have to share with men's groups if men are able to prove they can be just as abused as women. And they don't want any of that to happen. So that's why when any man group is formed, or a meetup is set, or someone tries to create a shelter, it's closed. But to that I say, it's all timing. When these things were going on or happening, we weren't living in the world we are living in now. Over the past handful of years, things have changed and are moving at a rapid pace. And some of these groups that protest, they overreach. And they have been doing it a lot lately. And I thought to myself, if one of those people with deep pockets that is helping some male content makers, not me for sure, but I've heard some guys are working with some people with deep pockets that hate what they are seeing in our society and want a change for the better. Well, I thought, what if they picked a time when one of these groups overreached again, to open up a men's shelter? Because one of two things would happen probably. And that's either no one would care, and the shelter could go about their business helping men, eventually expanding to the point they are available everywhere. Or, what would be more than likely, they would be protested. And during this vile evil can be shown all over the world for what it is. Evil people. Picketing and protesting people that want help. People that just want assistance and care. And legal advice. And that's when those that speak well for all the groups wanting these shelters to thrive can get out there and do what they do best. And that's make the case of why these shelters are needed. People like Erin Pizzi. You know, I think that woman is remarkable. Just remarkable. I can see her doing interviews and asking the question, why are innocent people that happen to be men, why are they getting pushed around just for seeking help at a shelter? Dr. Helen Smith also out there addressing these issues. Men on both the sides of men's rights and MGTOW speaking up too. And because those that are opposed to men getting shelters and such, they completely overreach. And as a result, men get the help they need. And it establishes something very important. It establishes there is a very big problem. Because just like our narcissist, we can talk until we turn blue in the face. This won't change the narcissist. But we must change ourselves and take a positive stance before things get better. And again, just leaving for some seems great. But as some men have mentioned, yes, going your own way is good. But, and there is a but, what are you going to do when you are old? And things haven't gone well for you financially like you hoped. And you are pretty much cared for by the state, getting the worst medical treatment and abused by those in such facilities. But what if the system changed? And you actually stood a chance to meet someone decent, and their feet were held to the fire. Not literally. You know what I mean. So you both had to respect one another. And if she was a bad apple, no skin off your nose or out of your wallet, you can move on and meet someone else. And you could do what men have done for many years before you. Being fruitful and having a family. That is if you so choose that for your life. And the only way that will happen is if things change. And the only way things will change if it goes on the books men are abused too. And the only way that will happen is those with deep pockets that care. Wait for the right time. Those that oppose men getting help overreach yet again. And when they do, open a men's shelter. Have a plan to make sure it's covered everywhere and a lot of eyeballs are drawn to this problem. And grow from there. I will tell you. I believe, and I could be wrong. But I believe. If a few more men's shelters that provide all the help they can get, such as legal help, counseling, medical, and the whole nine was available, and broadcast to the public. With the pace things move nowadays, within a year, these shelters and move for change would be everywhere. Literally everywhere. Now keep in mind, this isn't me telling anyone to do anything. But think about it. Think about it in a healthy, constructive and decent way. And if you can make sure those that are at the top of the food chain of good, that deal with such people that have deep pockets, have the chance to think about it too. So what do you think? What do you think about my thoughts on what I see hypergamy being today? What do you think about having shelters opening up as a way to not only help those that need it but also to legitimize the problem and bring for a change? What do you think? I'm curious to know. With that said, I hope everyone had a blessed day. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.